puppies, it's Shea here. I'm gonna go through a list of pros and cons that I've found using Procreate, and this is just sort of my own take on it based on how I draw and my techniques that I use, so take it with a grain of salt, but hopefully it will help you kind of decide if Procreate is a good fit for you. Let's just start. I've got a list here, so bear with me as I look up and down. But the number one pro for me is that it's portable. My usual setup is like a huge Wacom Cintiq. I think it's like 24 or 22 inches. It's 22. It's 22 inches wide, which is just like not a thing you can casually bring to a coffee shop. And I also have a separate monitor, mostly to watch shows on, but I just have a really big setup, and so when I can just use my iPad and just quickly pick it up and go to a coffee shop, or even if I just want to sit on the sofa and watch a show but also be doing something with my hands so that I don't feel super restless, I would just say the portability is the number one pro for me. It comes with a lot of really neat brushes already there with Procreate, but then there are so many that you can buy out there, like on Creative Market and whatnot. Like my favorites are Lisa Bardot. I hope I said your name right. She's got this really great mid-century pack, and also Retro Supply. They've got a really good mid-century brush pack that I've been really enjoying playing with lately. There's just a lot of cool brushes that you can purchase, and you can even tweak brushes and make your own brushes. I haven't quite delved into that, but there's just a lot of cool brushes that you can use that can fit well with your style. Let's see. The automatic time-lapse replay is super cool. So somehow while you're drawing, Procreate is documenting or videoing everything that you're doing, and then they compress it into just this quick replay of your drawing process. And as an artist, sharing this on social, people really like to see the process, or now I'm even using them on YouTube, which is great. So rather than me having to go through After Effects and try and, hey Ella, sorry, my puppy's here. But rather than me having to go through After Effects and try and do all of that on my own and have a huge file that's clunky, I really like the time-lapse replay function. You guys have to bear with me. I have a cat and a dog in here, and it's just, who knows what's gonna happen. All right, let's see. If you already have an iPad, Procreate is very affordable. It's $10. If you don't have an iPad, you are gonna have to stomach that cost because Procreate is optimized for an iPad, and you gotta get an Apple Pencil as well. So, you know, you gotta weigh your options there, but it is going to be I think more cost effective than getting a Cintiq. And if you're just starting out, I would recommend getting an iPad and Procreate, and I think it's a really good intro to digital art, but you do have to make some purchases. Okay, there is a streamline feature. Now this is interesting, and I have different feelings about it. Oh, that's my cat. But basically with the streamline, when you draw a line, it kind of makes the line pretty. So sometimes I feel like that's cheating, but also drawing on the iPad is really tricky. It's a really glossy screen, so I would, draw my pencil one way, but the line didn't go that way that I wanted to, whereas if I was drawing it on paper, it would go exactly where I wanted it to. So the streamline sort of does help you out with that a little bit, and you can adjust it on certain brushes. You can take it off, you can bump it up. You just figure out what's right for you. And also clipping masks, they are now a thing in Procreate, which makes me so happy because they are pretty critical to my drawing process. And previously I was only able to get them in Photoshop. So man, having that in Procreate has been pretty great. Hey Ella. Okay, so let's get into the cons. No vector. So if you don't know what a vector is, I'll try and explain really quickly, but you know how in Photoshop, or rewind. If you have a big picture and you try and scale it up even more and it just loses all clarity and gets pixely and gross and icky, that's a raster, R-A-S-T-E-R file, whereas with a vector, if it's vector artwork, you can just like scale it up and it will not lose clarity or resolution. So Procreate doesn't have vectors, and sometimes that bums me out because I like to use Adobe Illustrator and InDesign and Photoshop, which are all vector-based programs. So that's like a huge thing for me. But it doesn't really affect me with my illustration styles when I'm just doing brushy stuff, but it affects me more if I was going to be doing like text or logos, or, you know, some people do have an illustration style that is incredibly vector based, so it might be frustrating for you types of people. I would say the pencil is a little awkward to charge sometimes, and I've got my iPad right here. Right here. So to charge this pencil, it's real clunky and strange. You have to, bear with me, here's like the little charging bit, and then, yeah, oh my god, this is so hard. You plug your pencil in like that, which just is so weird, and I have a cat who like loves to bat that, and it drives me nuts. So maybe they've updated it in like a more recent version, but it's been kind of frustrating for me. Okay, the next one, okay, you can create your own color palettes, which is cool, but in my digital drawing process video, you'll see that I use Pantone color swatches. And I can explain those a little bit more in another video, but they're a great way for me in Photoshop to sort of like quickly pick through colors, and also I know exactly what the color is going to look like when it prints, and I cannot access those Pantone color swatches in Procreate, so I really miss that. Like, and I can just go with it and make my own colors and stuff, but you know, for pieces that I'm selling like in my Etsy shop, like if I'm going to sell an art print or somebody's going to purchase a print of a commission, like I want to make sure that the colors that I'm sharing with them digitally are going to match as close to the print as I can. So you need Pantone swatches for that, or I do. So I would say that's something that I wish that Procreate would maybe add in maybe another new version. Okay, I will also say, while we're talking about print stuff, if you want a high-res file in Procreate, like 300 dpi, which is just basically gonna give you a much better print and better resolution, you're limited to the amount of layers that you can use. You can only use 10 layers total, and it can be done, but for me, I love to use a lot of layers, mostly because I like to be able to change my colors, and when everything's mashed onto one layer, like you just can't edit it as easily. Or if I'm trying a new idea, like I just wanna like pump that up onto another layer, pump that up onto a layer is what I said. I would just want to put it on a different layer and play with a new idea. But when you are like on your 10th layer, like you can't do that. So that kind of frustrates me a little bit and holds me back sometimes. And then also back to the whole vector thing, like you can't do like text. Like you can't actually type and like do cool type things in Procreate. So, but that might not affect you. It really doesn't affect my illustrations too much, but for some more graphic design work that I do, you know, I just wouldn't be able to use Procreate to create those finished pieces. But all in all, I think it's a pretty awesome tool. When you think about it, it's an app, and it's being used on your iPad, and it has so much power and capability to it. So I guess I would say I think it's a great tool for illustrators of all skill levels, especially beginners. I think it's a great intro. You know, you might get a little bit frustrated starting out because when you're doing stuff on paper, it's completely different when you're drawing on an iPad. The screen's really glossy. You could always get a screen cover that has a bit of tooth that sort of simulates paper. But I think it's a really good intro into digital art for those of you who are kind of interested in trying that. Yeah, hopefully this helped. Like this video if it did, or comment, like let me know if I missed something, or if one of the cons actually isn't really a con, like it's not a thing anymore, like correct me. And yeah, just like the video. I need some YouTube love. It really helps me cater the videos to what you're looking for. So hope this helped you, and get creating. Yay!